My son Timothy was a firefighter with the New York City Fire Department. He was killed on September 11th in the World Trade Center. I don't want the government using his death and the deaths of 3,000 people to undermine the Constitution and deny us our rights with the Patriot Act.
Just 45 days after the September 11th attacks, with virtually no debate and no amendments allowed, Congress passed the USA Patriot Act.
In October of 2001, John Ashcroft and George Bush were pushing Congress very hard to pass a new law to give them greater powers to fight terrorism.
The bill went straight to the Senate floor, completely bypassing the Senate Judiciary Committee. At 3:45 that morning, John Ashcroft and the administration had the House leadership file a clone of the Senate bill. They pushed the bill through the same day.
The Patriot Act gives the FBI the power to spy on innocent Americans without any evidence that these people have been engaged in criminal or terrorism activity. And it weakens the court's ability to prevent the government from abusing these new powers. And after the Patriot Act was passed, do you know what the government said? They said, this is just the beginning.
You're a suspect. You're a suspect. You're a suspect. Everybody in this room is a suspect until you prove you're not. And that is the growing philosophy that we are seeing among those who want power.
The Patriot Act's subversion of basic constitutional checks and balances immediately drew fire from liberals and conservatives. One of the most troubling provisions is Section 213.
The sneak and peek provisions gives the government the power to repeatedly search a private residence without informing the owners. And Section 213 allows them to withhold the fact that a search warrant has been issued almost indefinitely.
The Patriot Act lets the government collect information about what books you check out of the library, what you buy, your medical history, and your personal finances under an extremely low standard of proof.
Public libraries in America were founded on the basis of intellectual freedom and the right of the individual to access information and think freely and read freely. Section 215 of the USA Patriot Act has essentially taken that away.
If you don't know that the government is searching your home or your business, if you don't know what they've taken, then they have effectively taken away your constitutional right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure.
And Section 216 permits the government to monitor your email traffic and watch what internet sites you visit without your knowledge.
Since the focus is on internet service and not the individual, it means the FBI can read your emails, see what websites you visit, regardless of whether you're a suspect or not.
Section 802 could even allow the prosecution of protesters as terrorists.
The Patriot Act says that if you violate the laws of a state simply to influence the policy of the government by intimidation or coercion, very broadly defined, the government can now label you a terrorist and prosecute you. So, for example, if you're pro-life demonstrating at an abortion clinic, or if you're a member of the NAACP engaging in civil disobedience, you can now be labeled a terrorist and prosecuted by the federal government.
Only 10% of the Patriot Act is going to expire in 2005, and we've got our work cut out for us. The Attorney General has asked for even more power to spy on individuals without judicial review. And we're working to counteract that movement. We're supporting something called the SAFE Act.
Both Democrats and Republicans are supporting the SAFE Act. This bill makes sure that Americans are notified when the government searches their homes, unless someone's life's in danger, evidence is at risk, or a suspect is likely to flee. The bill also prevents fishing expeditions into personal information of innocent citizens. And we make sure that key parts of the Patriot Act will sunset, so Congress is literally forced to review the law.
But Washington isn't the only battleground in the effort to restore checks and balances to the Patriot Act. During the last 2 years, 4 states and more than 300 communities representing almost 50 million Americans have passed resolutions denouncing the Patriot Act.
No city in America suffered more than the people of New York, including my own family, in which we lost someone in the 9/11 terrorist attack. However, I and my colleagues in the City Council felt it was important to send a message that we felt you can be secure and free at the same time.
Our resolution specifically opposed the Patriot Act and very specific that we didn't want our police department to be in any way involved in any of the monitoring or spying.
The policies that the government has undertaken since 9/11 has severely affected the urban Muslim communities here. People don't know what to expect. People are afraid to speak their minds. Even some people to a certain point have been afraid to go to their homes. They'd prefer to sleep in their cars because of the fear.
My daughter Alicia was a flight attendant on Flight 175, and she died on September 11th. And I won't let the government use that to take away our freedoms and our basic rights. And the Patriot Act has done just that.
When you grant government extensive powers to reach into the personal lives of ordinary Americans, that can be used against individuals regardless of context or party.
I would have to say that in terms of conservative politics, Elko is probably as conservative as any place in the country. And civil liberties in general aren't just a liberal idea or a conservative idea. And I think that's why the council did approve a resolution unanimously.
It was important for us to vote on the resolution for civil liberties in concern about the Patriot Act. We have a higher standard within the city of Elko to recognize the Constitution when we enforce laws.
We all support the war on terrorism, and we want to see the bad guys caught. But we're worried that it's going to start to infringe on our liberties, Second Amendment liberties in particular.
You cannot give up freedom, you cannot give up liberty, and be safe.
We're losing freedoms, and we're losing what makes this country good. And it's really wrong.
Americans across the political spectrum need to play a role in making sure that our civil liberties are not eviscerated in our war on terror.
A lot of people assume that the ACLU and other civil liberties organizations will take care of their concerns. And there's a lot we can do, but we can only be effective when individual people all over the country speak up individually and tell their elected officials, we care, we know we can be both safe and free. Albert Einstein put it very well in a different context, which is particularly relevant now. He said, constitutional rights will be secure only when everyone speaks up in support of the Constitution. People must stand up, they must speak up, and it will make a difference.